Coco Chanel. Most people think of perfumes and that little black dress. But behind the brand is a whirlwind story about an orphan who refused to be trapped by poverty, outdated fashion, or the snobbery of the era. She didn't just put her name on fancy labels, she reshaped how women actually live in their clothes. And it all started in the unlikeliest place, a convent's orphanage. Gabrielle Coco Chanel was born around 1883. Her father was a traveling peddler, her mother passed away early, and her father basically opted out of fatherhood, leaving her in the care of nuns. That environment was strict and plain, zero frills allowed. Ironically, that might have sown the seeds for her minimalist designs later. If you are forced to wear utilitarian uniforms growing up, you might dream of a day when clothing is less about screaming status and more about letting you breathe. By her late teens, Coco was hustling to survive. She took up singing in dingy cafes, earning the nickname Coco from a silly tune she crooned for pocket change. She wasn't the next big musical act, but the stage presence gave her a taste for attention. Eventually, she met Etienne Balsan, a wealthy ex-cavalry officer. He introduced her to a world of leisure she'd never seen, hats, horses, and high society. But she didn't just lounge around, she started making hats for his socialite friends. Because, guess what? Those elaborate piles of feathers were heavy, and Chanel's simpler, sleeker versions felt refreshing. When they sold, she smelled opportunity. Fast forward to 1910, she opens a small hat shop in Paris. Her style was drastically different. While others favored towering hats with literal bird replicas on top, Coco's hats were stripped down, letting the wearer's face stand out instead of the feathers. The novelty made waves, and by 1913 she was branching into clothes, especially using jersey fabric. This was radical. Jersey was cheap and used for men's underwear, not elegant women's garments. But she saw the comfort potential, and women were starved for it. With World War I forcing practical dress, Chanel's easy-to-wear designs soared in popularity. She basically said to Europe, "You can run errands or, outrun bombs without toppling over your corset." By the 1920s, she was unstoppable. She launched Chanel No. 5 in 1921. Everyone expected a dainty floral, but she introduced a bold, modern blend that smelled like no flower at all. It was synthetic, powerful, and completely new. Hollywood starlets, aristocrats, and everyday women who wanted a piece of glamour rushed to buy it. Then 1926 brought the little black dress. Before Chanel, black was reserved for mourning, not parties. She stripped away the frills, presenting a single color piece so daring and simple that the fashion world either cheered or gasped. But it stuck, because it matched the evolving mindset of women demanding freedom of movement and expression. That one garment became a decades-long staple, practically an icon in every closet. Yet life wasn't just runway success. World War II came, and she closed most of her shops, lived at the Ritz, and reportedly mingled with some unsavory political figures. Post-war, she faced backlash. Some saw her as a collaborator, others as a victim of circumstance. She retreated from the public eye for a while, only to burst back onto the scene in 1954. Many pegged her as outdated, but she proved them wrong with the iconic Chanel suit, tweed jackets, gold buttons, and that easy elegance women had been craving yet again. She was nearly 70, outpacing designers half her age, reminding everyone that style is a mindset, not a passing phase. Her personal life was as tangled as her brand was clean. She had affairs, heartbreaks, and rumors of espionage swirl around her. She made enemies. Some said she was aloof, others said she was cunning. But she was also known for small acts of generosity behind the scenes. Biographers paint her as complex, contradictory. She'd sometimes lie about her past, claiming noble birth to mask her orphan roots. Then again, she was building a fantasy, and fantasies often sell better than harsh truths. Why does she still matter? Because almost every modern piece of women's clothing that prioritizes comfort, from unstructured suits to simple black dresses, can trace a thread back to Chanel's influence. She insisted fashion be functional, that clothes should empower rather than imprison. She also harnessed brand power way before the rest of the fashion world caught on. Chanel No. 5 is the prime example. And while many question her moral choices, few deny she single-handedly changed how women see themselves, flipping the script from society's frilly dolls to real people who need to move, work, and exhale in their outfits. In 1971, she died in her beloved suite at the Ritz Hotel in Paris. By then, her name was already legend. The brand marched on, reinterpreted by future designers who clung to that minimalistic, sharp ethos. Chanel endures as a universal symbol of elegance, even if the woman behind it was anything but universal or simple. She was contradictory, stubborn, and relentless, a combination that left permanent footprints on the runway of history. Ultimately, Coco Chanel's life reminds us that you can start with nothing, literally leftover jersey fabric and a cheap needle, and build a global empire if you have the audacity to do what no one else will. She cut dresses to let women breathe, but in a bigger sense, she gave them the freedom to define style on their own terms. That's why, even decades after her death, we're still talking about the orphan who defied odds and changed an entire industry from the inside out. Love or debate her legacy, she ensured fashion would never again be about suffocating constraints, but about liberation, simplicity, and a bold spirit that refuses to blend in.